Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fantastic Forum. I'm your host, Devon Sanders, and today's guests are Roberto Ortiz.
Hey.
He's to my right. James Rambo, again, and Sherin Nicole. Still not a real name.
Still my real name. Just not all of it.
Just not all of it. Okay. Okay, today's question is about formats in comics. Like, we've seen a lot of different new formats come into comics. It used to be it was a monthly to like a quarterly thing. Now we're seeing weekly comics. Now we're seeing comics blown up this big coming out on a weekly basis. We're seeing Spider-Man being produced 3 times a month. Good, bad, what opinions?
I think this is great. I think that basically the industry is realizing that in order to survive, it needs to experiment. And sticking to one particular formula, it's the path to destruction for the industry. That the mere fact that they're experimenting shows me that there's a willingness to try to find new ways to make money. I think that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you know, digital age, so any kind of paper medium is going to be hard to maintain.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're like Roberto says, they're trying to experiment, they're trying to see what they can do to really push the boundaries, get people excited. I think Wednesday Comics is genius. You know, it's an easy way to hand somebody something that's like, oh, I don't, you know, I've never read a superhero comic. Well, read Commandi.
Right.
You know, something that nobody would ever pick up, and then you have Ryan Sook doing the artwork, so it's absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
And 52 is great. Countdown not so much, but it's still it's interesting. I know people who bought every issue of Countdown just to see how it would go.
And they cried after.
And they were very upset. They were very upset. But no, I think it's really interesting. And I'm really excited about it.
So for the person who has a stack of comics that big unread, please school me. I know. Please school me on Wednesday Comics.
Wednesday Comics, long story short, is pretty much like the best sort of talent that that's DC has to offer right now, where it's for 12 weeks. It's done in like a newspaper format. You get guys like Dave Gibbons, Neil Gaiman, who can't commit to an ongoing sort of even mini-series.
Yeah, because he's twittering.
Right.
Yeah, he's too busy writing his blog.
Yeah, to actually go out there and say, okay, you're going to allow me to do these like comics in like a format that kind of fits my artwork or writing style or what have you. Like, I mean, personally, Kyle Baker, Hawkman.
Kyle
Yes.
Baker's
Like
Hawkman,
the
it's
greatest
gorgeous.
thing
A
in
man
the
called
world.
Hawkman.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
The Superman, it's awesome.
Superman is awesome. A little slow, but I think it's beautifully drawn.
You know,
Who's doing Superman?
Libra Mayhew.
Libra
from,
Mayhew's
the
is
Joker.
drawing it, but it's great too because there's a different colorist on him, so his stuff doesn't look as harsh.
Exactly.
It's like it's really smooth, it's really clean. It's
Right, and in
gorgeous.
this format, you can get that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think maybe the cost of it might be a little prohibitive. It's $3.99.
a little. I can
pop.
see that.
Yeah,
I could definitely
but
see that.
overall, I just think it's just beautiful stuff.
What's Neil Gaiman doing? What's the...
Metamorpho.
Gaiman and Mike Allred are doing Metamorpho together.
Is it delicious?
It's fantastic.
It's very good.
And I agree with them. And it tends to favor the creator because there's not the pressure to have to produce an incredible amount of work. So what you're seeing in each and every one of these compilations is some of the best artwork you're ever going to see in terms of comic book art. It looks incredible.
Yeah, it's beautiful because, and this is like a totally different subject, but this is something that's kind of been like under my skin for a little while, is we're rapidly going into the franchising of comics. Where it's like, if you're not Superman, if you're not Batman, if you're not Spider-Man or a member of the Avengers or some such, you're not going to get a chance to shine. Something like a Wednesday Comics gives the character a chance to shine. Like, let's be honest about it. Nobody gave a dang about Booster Gold before 52.
Right.
Now he's got a series again. You know, the reason that we have Blue Beetle
Again.
is because of 52. Quite frankly, I hope someone looks at like Kyle Baker's Hawkman and goes, this is a character we need to be doing on a monthly basis with someone who actually gets the character. And like, you know, these things like weekly comics give you a chance to sort of sample what each individual universe has without a big name creator having to commit to, oh, well, I only have 3 issues worth of ideas, but I have to pad it out to like 6 months.
Right.
6 issues for a trade paperback.
A la Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly.
It's kind of like what's going on with the second feature with DC, that they're doing this thing where you have a principal story like Batwoman in Detective Comics, and you have the second feature with the question that it's about, what, 3 to 4 pages, but the cool thing is it allows enough space to actually generate interest on the character and a continuous storyline. And I think DC is on the right on this one, that they're exposing the readership with a variety of characters and keeping them on the limelight by doing these types of experiments.
So they're almost like pilots in a way.
Pilots, exactly.
Yeah,
Pilots,
in a way.
exactly. I mean, it's also kind of an admission, to me at least, that like certain characters aren't necessarily top tier.
Yeah, but they don't have to be.
Yeah,
which
they
is
don't
the-
have to
the
be.
genius
Every
part of it.
character has a story. Like, you know, everybody's always said, you know, there are no bad characters, just bad writers. Formats like, you know, the double feature in DC gives you a chance to test this theory out. Where it's like, Captain Atom, great character. When he's with, like, Justice League Europe,
Yes.
great. You know? His story has been messed up for almost, like, the better part of 15 years now, ever since, help me out here. It was like the thing that messed him up back in '94, where he was supposed to become monarch and everything.
God.
They pulled back on that one.
So
And then they
bad.
placed
You've like
Hulk into
selective
it.
memory.
Actually, my brain is protected. Yes.
Yeah, Armageddon, and that was just terrible.
And
And since
then-
then, he's just been terrible.
And then they fixed that in
And then-
Countdown.
Right, and they fixed Countdown.
They really fixed it.
And now,
Yay.
quite frankly, I don't give a dang about Action Comics and Nightwing and Flamebird.
Yeah.
I don't care.
But Captain
Don't
Atom's
give me a
in it.
Superman comic without Superman in it. But Captain Atom in the back of that thing, written by like Greg Rucka and James Robinson, I'll read that.
And
Yeah.
set during the Justice League Europe days, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly.
Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing about the second feature is I'm finding people who will buy. Where's Blue Beetle popping up in? Is it it's Boots
Teen
of Gold?
Titans
Yes,
It's
and
Boots of Gold.
Boots of Gold. Yeah.
People who wouldn't buy the isolated Blue Beetle book, who came in, you know, after the party was over and got like the trades and like, oh, this is great. You know, where can I pick it up? Well, you can't. Sorry. Because the first 4 trades of Blue Beetle are fantastic.
Right.
After that, it kind of went downhill, and then, you know, DC canceled the book.
The Jaime Blue Beetle, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But then you have the second feature, which is introducing people and getting people excited about it.
Yes.
And it's like that little tiny tease. It's a little taste of the character, and it really gets people's emotions up, and it really gets people excited about it.
Before I forget, another thing I would like to bring is the fact that with Suda Comics, I believe DC Comics is also experimenting with web distribution of comics in terms of the Bible medium. That we're being told to wrap it up.
No, finish the thought real quick.
But it's, I think, something that we should be looking in terms of the future, because it shows me that the comic book companies are willing to experiment in new formats to make money.
And
All right.
That's all right.
And we'll be right back with more Fantastic Forum.
In comic art, there was definitely before Neal Adams and after Neal Adams. I mean, you had this incredibly realistic style.
BNA? That sounds disgusting. I think that stands for something else. You're trying to fund me here. You're trying to kid. I get it. I understand what's going on here.
How did you get into comics, Mr. Adams?
It wasn't easy. I get into comics by going swimming upstream. In the day that I was getting into comics, nobody was getting into comics. There's nobody in comic books that's 5 years my junior or 5 years my senior. I don't think that's a thing to be proud of, but it's a fact. Comic books were really, really bad in the United States of America. They had Congress had hearings where they, just as they criticized communists, they criticized comic books. I don't think you can put them into the same category, but somehow comic books were bad for America. As we've discovered, comic books are not bad for America. Apparently comic books are very good for America.
Why did you choose this particular art form? I mean, with your talent, you could have done any kind of commercial art. Why comic books?
Well, if you listen to the opinions of other people, it's because I was stupid. Because it was a stupid thing to do. It was a stupid direction to go in, and if I was really serious about my future, I wouldn't do it. I have a kind of a history of being right after everybody else insists that I'm wrong for a long time. So that my choosing to be in comics or trying to be in comics was, according to everybody else, a mistake, because there were no such thing as comics. In fact, when I got into comics, everybody basically said comic books will be gone in a year or two and that'll be the end of it. But I wanted to do comic books, so I chose to do comic books. To a certain extent, they were right, and to a tremendous extent, they were wrong. The comic books of that day were very watered down comic books. The comic books of today are very exciting and genuinely wonderful and creative and fabulous, and they've led to television shows, movies, computer games. In fact, comic books are taking over the world, if you think about it. Our entertainment medium is filled with comic books. So that if you were to ask me why I chose comic books, obviously it had to be a personal decision, because there was nothing right about it. In fact, until it started to advance, everything was wrong. Now, like I'm a prophet, somehow Neil was able to figure it out and nobody else was able to figure it out. And when I say nobody else, I mean the whole of the American culture wasn't able to figure it out. But it turned out that I was right and they were wrong.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, you are a gigantic talent.
So you to continue to compliment me. I'm saying that so you can like get over it. We can move on and talk about more exciting stuff like motion comics.
Please tell us about that.
There you go. Okay, we're on the same line here. Motion comics are comic books that you can watch like a video. They have a script, they have voices, they move, mouths talk, heads turn, people walk, people run, people punch, people do all the things they do in comic books except they're moving. And the drawings, the animation, is of the artist that did the work in the comic book. It's not 75 guys in Czechoslovakia animating Bruce Timm. And I'm not criticizing Bruce Timm, but one of the things you do in animation is you simplify drawings and you make them into cartoons. Well, we know comic books aren't cartoons. Comic books are realistic drawings that are essentially movies. So how do you take a comic book in its purest form and make it into a movie? Motion comics. And that's what they are. It's a new art form. It's never existed before, even though there have been lots of things sort of like it, and there have been attempts like Watchmen, failed attempts. But motion comics are a unique form. They are, if you could say, could you perform magic? Could you take a magician and have him take your comic book drawings and make them act and make them move by using some kind of magic technology? I would watch that, but can you do that? The magician says, well, either he can or he can't. This magician says, I can. We can make them move. So why would you not want to see that? If you could see the X-Men walk and talk and move, and not through actors, but with the drawings of John Cassidy or Stuart Immonen or John Romita Jr., their drawings would actually move, and then you could go back to the graphic novel and look at the work that in the graphic novel, and then look at, and see that they're the same thing. Then you would, one, buy the motion comic, and two, buy the graphic novel. So for our business, talking about just business, it's a great beginning of a new form.
We're here at the Small Press Expo in Bethesda, talking with Executive Director Karen Flakey. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today, Karen.
Oh, sure. We love getting publicity.
Now, I've been hearing quite a bit about the Small Press Expo for a number of years, but this is, I have to confess, my first year attending. How many years has the show been going on, and how did it get started?
This is our 13th year, unless I'm missing a year. Could be our 14th. I've been involved since 1998 as a volunteer. Small Press Expo was created by a local group of retailers and comic fans to create an environment for the mini comics creators, for the independent publishers, for the smaller publishers to get together in a forum where their books wouldn't be overlooked, maybe if they were with DC and Marvel and some of the larger publishers.
I see. Now, I understand that the prestigious Ignatz Awards is part of the SPX. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, the Ignatz Awards is the only festival comics prize in the United States. We nominate a jury, and the jury picks what's going to be on the ballot, but then the actual exhibitors and attendees here today at the show will vote on the Ignatz, and then we'll award that tonight. And since it is named after Ignatz and Crazy Cat, the trophy's a brick.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, now, what does the Small Press Expo mean to the various exhibitors and the people who come out?
Well, for a lot of our exhibitors, this may be the only show that they do. Just because maybe they're local to the area, they don't have a publisher, they're doing everything mini comics, printing it at Kenko, stapling it themselves, and this is a place where they can come and meet other publishers that started off small like that and have grown and have gotten larger and become, you know, quite popular and gotten their books into bookstores. So we like to think of this both as a very art-centric show and as a training ground for new artists.
We love them. We'll always come here as long as we're welcome. And we really like kind of the vibe of the show and the people that we see and that come up to us and we deal with. And a lot of our creators are here anyway. And they come to the show, and they've always come to the show, and they work for so many other companies because we're creator-owned books. So we want to be here for them, you know, so that we can support them and they can support us.
Now, SPX is an annual event, is it not?
Yes, it is, and in 2009, our dates will be September 26th and 27th, here again at the North Bethesda Hyatt and Conference Center. We're right across the street from White Flint Metro, so go ahead and make your plans now. Particularly if you are interested in exhibiting, you will want to go to the Small Press Expo website.
And what's that?
It is www.spxpo.com. We'll have the exhibitor forms up by January, but you definitely need to check real early in the year. We're a very popular show, and we sell out the exhibitor space quite quickly.
So how many attendees are you expecting this year?
We normally have about 500 exhibitors that we tend to kind of count also as attendees, and then probably anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 through the doors.
Wow, that's really something for a relatively small show like this. Yeah. How has it grown over the years?
Oh, definitely in attendance and in size. Moving over to the Marriott let us all be in one ballroom. Before we were at an old Holiday Inn that no longer exists and kind of spread across different rooms. And so we've gone from maybe less than 100 exhibitor tables to 172 exhibitor tables.
Wow.
And then attendance continues to grow as well.
Well, that's fabulous. And I tell you, I think it's so important, an event like this that offers smaller publishers a chance to display their wares and sort of connect one-on-one with the various comics audience. So you are absolutely to be commended for a fabulous event like this. And I know I'm having a ball. I encourage everybody to come out and check out the Small Press Expo here in Rockville, Bethesda? Where is it we are?
Yeah, they call it North Bethesda, but I think it's kind of really Rockville, but don't tell anyone. They named it North Bethesda.
Hey, as long as people can find it.
Donna Show. The Donna Show.
The Donna Show.
Did you get that?
And welcome back to Fantastic Forum. We're going to switch gears a little bit. And we're going to talk about remakes and reimaginings within sort of like the genre-specific genre. Anyway.
Remix.
Exactly. Speaking of things like, you know, the new Battlestar Galactica.
The new.
Which
the
one?
New.
Oh, that's so
No, the
irritating.
new Battlestar Galactica with James Olmos, and V is coming back. And
Yeah, but I'm telling you, what's her name? Marina
Monica
Baccarin?
Yes.
Is that her name? As Diana? Oh my God. that is genius.
It's-
Like, I don't even like women like that. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, it's definitely plugged in casting. It's like they know who their target audience is.
Oh, that was genius.
Oh yeah, but like,
But what's happening with the new old battle? I guess it's the new old Battlestar Galactica, right?
It's money. It's basically the fact that they feel that they have name recognition with the franchise. That the only thing they got is basically the fact that they have Battlestar Galactica, Captain Apollo, and Starbuck, and that's basically what they're going to reuse. Everything else, it's up for grabs.
But it's Starbuck as a man again?
Probably.
Guess, which is just going to be more confusing for a new audience.
I don't find, in this new age.
Well, what's irritating? The most
Gender
irritating,
switching?
most irritating thing to me is Ronald Moore was like, "Well, who said we were done? He's like, we've been kicking an idea around that's, you know, Adama getting, you know, he's in his quarters and he's getting dressed, just, you know, civilian clothes. They've already settled, you know, spoiler alert, and Saul comes in and is like, we have a problem, and that would be the beginning of an episode, and that could lead into, like, you know, the way Babylon 5 or Farscape did, like the smaller movies, like the little 2-hour 7 movies. They're going to do the plan. They have Caprica coming up, and then they wanted to do the movies. If the straight to DVD stuff, if Warner Brothers is like, well, we're going to do a theatrical release, that's not going to happen, and chances are good we're not going to get, you know, lightning to strike twice. So
Well, the thing is that you have basically the fight between two media giants. Basically, it's Universal Studios, who basically owns the TV rights for Battlestar Galactica, and Glenn Larson, who owns the movie rights for Battlestar Galactica. And what's going to happen is going to be kind of like one of those King Kong versus Godzilla fight to see who basically, if they can actually stop the release of the movie or not.
But does it really matter? Because to me, comic book fans, we've been dealing with alternate universes and realities forever. Why can't it just be another dimension, Earth 2?
Because imagine if somebody released a new version of Star Wars or something, and they said, this is going, like, it already happened.
I would actually like
James
that
Bond.
for those last 3 movies.
Remember when Sony released James Bond, Never Say Never Again, back in the 80s?
Yeah.
That was completely different from the regular James Bond movies. You were watching this and you're like, okay, I see Sean Connery playing James Bond, but it doesn't feel kind of right. And it was confusing for the audience.
But yeah, but you're talking about the same actor, where we're talking about television versus the theater and different actors. And I mean, we can't handle that. I'm asking. We as an audience can't handle that.
I think it's, you know, at this point, because you have, again, to keep talking about BSG, you have something that's really successful.
Yeah.
It's got a really, at this point, it's not even a cult following. It's a following. People who don't watch sci-fi were telling me about this show. That it would be like relaunching Batman, which isn't to say that Chris Nolan and Christian Bale should keep doing this until they die, but
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to do, okay, well, we did Dark Knight, maybe we'll do one more, but after that, we'll do a new origin story. Just for the hell of it, you know, see how it works out.
But you have the animated series and the Batman movies running at them running at the same time.
But the whole problem is that this is smacks of greed. In terms that the Hollywood right now, we're in the middle of a recession. And Hollywood right now has not been spared. This is directly a consequence of the fact that all these studios are owned by media giants who might not be affected in terms of people going to movies and things like that. But somewhere a subsidiary in Finland right now is in the toilet, so we have to actually make money for them. So what they're doing is that they're releasing all these properties that they know that there's an audience built in, never care that we don't have a story or something for it. We're just going to release it because of brand recognitions, and let's do this. It's like Hasbro saying, you know what? We have been doing Star Wars figures for God knows how long. Why don't we do our own Star Wars franchise based on the action figures?
I
based
see.
on what we got.
And what you just said is the reason why we've got a new Karate Kid coming.
Got
We've got a
Kung Fu
remake
Kid now.
of
Kung
The
Fu Kid.
Last
Kung Fu Kid.
Dragon. You're
The Last
remaking The
Dragon?
Last. You
They're
with
re-
Samuel
yeah,
L.
The
Jackson
Last
and
Dragon?
Shonuff.
They're remaking Enter the Dragon.
Stop it.
Yes.
Yeah, and
That's-
Rain, the guy who's gonna be in Ninja Assassin.
That's unnecessary.
Yeah. Oh, but it's gonna be a noir film too, and it's gonna be about underground street fighting. You know, just like the original was, but not because it's.
Well,
you know, it's the same, but
here's the
different.
question,
Don't
though.
you think Hollywood needs a stupid button?
Well,
like the easy button, you know, but stupid. It's like, no, don't do that. That's stupid.
Well, it's like you're saying that they're going to make a Viewmaster movie. That would never happen.
Actually, that would be
Oh, it's
kinda
happening
awesome.
right now.
Trust me. Oh, but here's the question. Is it so much more about like continuing the franchise, or is it about continuing the revenue stream?
Revenue stream.
Revenue
stream, totally.
Okay.
You know,
That's
it's-
what I think.
They're not concerned about telling good stories.
Hell no.
No.
You know, when again, to go back to PSG, any of the isolated episodes, like the single one-shot ones, they were all awful.
Right.
And that was all sci-fi being like, we need stuff that, you know, new viewers can come in and watch and get into. And they're like, okay. So they made like 3 or 4 of them. They were all awful.
Yeah.
And that's how you get SGU.
Well,
I'll give
well,
them a
that's
break.
how you get
Yeah.
things like Enterprise. You
Yeah.
know, where it was just like, let's be honest about it. The best stories that were told pretty much ended with like Next Generation, and everybody else goes, well, I didn't mind Voyager so much. I didn't mind
Deep Space
DS9
Nine.
so
I
much.
like these, but yeah, Voyager.
And the
But
last
if you
season
wanna-
of
but
Enterprise
the-
was not bad.
But the quote-unquote definitive stories
Yeah.
were
No, I agree with
told
that.
pretty much between Star Trek and Next Generation. Everything else was like a nice, like, you know, sort of like addition to the house.
Yeah.
Like, they were like good one-shots
Right,
there.
exactly.
Deep Space
But-
Nine spins out of Next
But,
Generation.
but there was a concern in terms that there was a cohesiveness on what the story that was being told. The problem I have with going back to what they're doing with Battlestar Galactica is truly not giving a rat's ass of what has gone before.
Yeah.
It's just
Continuities
It's
out the
they're
window.
not conscious of why they're doing it. They're just doing it.
Well, Ben Hatton mentioned that they
Ben
are
Hatton.
doing, yes, Dr. Ben Hatton, that they're
Squire
doing,
the third.
that they're doing a new old Buffy. So
Yes.
they're remaking the original
Yeah.
Buffy movie,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not the series.
which I find horrifying.
what's the name of the girl in Transformers?
Megan Fox.
That's
No,
the one they
no,
have in
no,
mind for her.
no.
Yes.
Yeah, they're
I'm
trying to
leaving
do
the
that
damn
one.
show. I got to take.
But I think with the way that we know media as it is now, a lot more people are going to be interested in like Megan Fox, like running
Playing Buffy.
around.
Not as Buffy.
Yes.
But see, but
See, but
it's
that's
your
the thing.
perception.
Maybe
Yeah,
she
exactly.
was Frey. I
It's
might
because
be
you
able
don't
to-
necessarily. I can't even remember. Christy Swanson was
Yeah,
the original.
Yeah.
Yes.
Swanson.
Okay, she's not Buffy, even though she was the original.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
no, Sarah Michelle Gellar, for most people, even those of us that were around for the original, is Buffy. I mean, that's where
Yes.
Buffy comes. That's why if you had Megan Fox, she should like be Frey.
And on that
Pardon?
note, we're going to have to end it. It's just that simple. I'm Devon Sanders, I'm your host. You had Roberto Ortiz, you had James Rambo, you had Sherin Nicole, and that's pretty much all you needed. We'll see you again next week. Bye.